today we will conclude our study of SD 48.1. Now in the closing section, section 9, the heading is What Survives Death. Here, by way of summary, the body does not survive death. The simple reason is physical. It is the four elements. It goes back to the four elements. And what it moves on is, of course, the consciousness. But consciousness is such a big term. Especially in early Buddhism, there are many aspects of consciousness. For example, behind each of the senses, there is sense consciousness. Behind the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And then there is our attention, our thinking, and so on. So, now, it helps us to understand here that there are two key words. They are modern words that help us understand the nature of consciousness in a simple way. First of all, we have what is called cognitive consciousness. This is the consciousness of our eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. This functioning consciousness, if you like, how we experience the world. Of course, in the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, these are physical aspects. They cease when someone dies. So this kind of consciousness ceases to be when the physical body ceases. So we are left with the mind consciousness. Now even then, not everything of the mind moves on, because part of the mind deals with the senses. So we have a fraction of the mind, a small fraction of the mind that moves on, and the small fraction is called we have this cognitive consciousness, and this is called existential consciousness. In other words, another simple term for this is bhavanga. What do you call this? Existence, element of existence, okay, or birth consciousness, patisantichitta. Even terms like antarabhava, intermediate states. So there are various terms used. Many of these terms are late. So the modern term for this is existential consciousness. It's the consciousness that moves on. It's a kind of karmic gene, if you like. It has all this unconscious stored in it, if you like. Our karma, in a simple term, our karma, sort of stored in this capability of sprouting again into another being, whether human or non-human, and continuing with this karma. Of course, this might be said to be speculative, because it's very hard to prove such things, but we can understand and even accept this kind of teaching by analogy. Well, for example, when we look at plants in nature, the plants they grow from seeds. You plant the seeds, and new plants grow, and so on. So there's something in the seed that kind of creates or brings forth a new plant. Of course, we call it the genes. So if on a physical level we have such genes, perhaps we could imagine on a mental level too, there are similar genes that allows us to move on into a new life. So this is how the early Buddhists, or how the Buddha teaches us the nature of rebirth. Now another interesting question is, how do we know this? How do we remember our past lives? How can we be sure that we are such and such in a past life? Here again, we might say this, we can only base our understanding on the teachings that we found in the text. In simple terms, two important aspects help us to know our rebirth, or at least be able through meditation to recall our past lives and also the past lives of others. This in fact are the part of the three knowledges of the Arhat. First is our ability to recall our own past lives. Number two, the ability to recall the past lives of others according to the karma. So the first is knowledge of rebirth, second is knowledge of karma, and the third is the knowledge of the destruction of the asavas, the defilements that fetter us to this world. By having all these three knowledges, the person becomes an Arhat. So here, the meditator, we are able to recall past lives through the continuity of our consciousness. We're able to trace back. And number two is through memory, to sati, to our own recalling this continuity of consciousness. It's just like here you are listening to me and you spend a moment thinking what you did a while ago and then yesterday and so on, so you go backwards over time in a very mindful way, and you're able to recall your past actions, your past lives. So this is the early Buddhist explanation of rebirth. And so here, by way of summary, we can say then that our whole life should be lived in such a way that we know when our last moment comes, we will live happily. But the problem is we do not know when that last moment will come. It's very uncertain. Life is uncertain, death is uncertain. So in a situation of uncertainty, it's best to prepare the moment. One thing is sure is this present moment. So that we are reminded constantly to reflect on the impermanence of the moment. Even this moment is passing so fast. So this is one truth, one reality that we can reflect on. And if we reflect on impermanence regularly in this way, then we are in touch with reality. We are not kind of cheating ourselves with some grand idea of some kind of impermanent entity somewhere, that if we do a certain thing, bribe certain gods, we will be reborn with some kind of reward. It's almost like kind of a transcendental bribery, but there's no such thing. It's the nature of our body to break up and our consciousness to move on. So if we habitually reflect on impermanence, then if we lose something of value to us, we accept it as if it's a kind of death, that we have lost something precious. So we're not going to lament about it, because we understand that's the nature of things. Things break up, things get lost, things degenerate, and so on. Even our bodies are shared with other beings, and so on. So this reflection, in other words, is a sort of reality check. It's not that we don't care about our bodies. Rather, we care about our body. I mean, we do not want to die. Many of us fear death. That's quite natural. But here the idea is to understand, no matter how we feel, this is reality. So as long as we understand this reality, then we are unlikely to go the wrong way. In other words, we are less likely to allow greed, hate, illusion to arise and to grasp us in such a way that we live rather unmindfully, and we break the precepts and so on. And then when the final moment comes, our mind is very confused, our mind is unwholesome, then the following rebirth also will be unwholesome. So the idea is to live this life, to enjoy it even, within the purview of the 5 precepts. In other words, respecting yourself, respecting others, respecting the environment. And if you do that, understanding that all these things are impermanent, then you do so joyfully, you do so realistically. And if you do that, then you are ready even when the last moment comes. So in this way we are creating good karma. And there are some beautiful verses here with which we will close our chapter here, the very first chapter of ST48. A selection of beautiful verses from Dhammapada to reflect on impermanence, on karma, on death and on rebirth. Dhammapada DH 1 to 6. Some arise in the human womb, bad doers arise in hell. Those well conducted go to heaven, the influx free attain nirvana. DH 15. Here he sorrows, hereafter he sorrows. The bad doer sorrows both ways. He sorrows, he is afflicted, seeing his own defiled deeds. DH 16. Here he rejoices, hereafter he rejoices. The good doer rejoices both ways. He rejoices, he is inspired, seeing the purity of his deeds. Dhammapada 17. Here he suffers, hereafter he suffers. The bad doer suffers both ways. He suffers thinking, I've done bad. He suffers even more, gone to a bad rebirth. Dhammapada 18. Here he is happy, hereafter he is happy. The good doer is happy both ways. He is happy thinking, I've done good deed, or I've done good. He's even more happy, gone to a good rebirth. So there you are. We have completed our study on the nature of karma and the afterlife. And key idea to remember is we create our own karma. We should constantly reflect on impermanence. And that way we live our present life well. And when the last moment comes, we move on until we gain awakening. Let us now close with a short reflection. Our study of the sutras help us to have a clear understanding of the Dharma, the Buddha's teaching of true reality, and such teaching acts as a kind of reality check for us, keeping us on the right track in our daily life, so that we really know how to enjoy this life, to see the truth and beauty of the Dharma, of reality. And in that way we live our life fully. And when the last moment comes, we move on happily to start a new chapter in a new life. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. But above such karma, may we be empowered with the wisdom and the courage to aspire to stream winning in this life itself. By the same token, but above the three jewels and our own good deeds, let us send out our loving kindness to our loved ones, to people who have been kind and supportive of us. May they be well, may they be happy. And also, may those who are seeking the Dharma, those who are practicing the Dharma, be well and happy too. And but above the three jewels, may those who are lost, may those who are uncertain of their ways, to find the true teaching in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.